Hey everybody, this is Craig Cottle, Director of Nature Reliance School. We're going to be live here tonight talking about disaster preparedness. So glad you joined us. So help me out here. Share this with anybody you think that might be interested. We're going to give a few seconds here to make sure anybody that wants to get in can get in. And while we're doing that, you can help us out by that share, like it. If you have some comments, questions, then throw them in here. That way we can have a dialogue. Because I'm here to help you, and here's how you can help me. You can do all that. And then if you have questions, you can bring them up in the comments, and then we'll address them as we go along. So I really appreciate you doing that. So again, we're going to be talking about disaster preparedness. I've got a big TV out behind the camera right now that's letting me know what's going on with Hurricane Irma. So we're going to give you some updated information on that, as well as go through everything that we can that's going to make sure that we get your questions answered. So it's going to be a back and forth if you don't care. That way I can help you, and you can help me by getting more information out to as many people as possible. Because our goal, always at Nature Reliance School, is to come on and join in and learn together. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. I'll tell you what will help you out quite a bit is if you have the ability, then go ahead and go to our website. It's listed in the description above. And that website is naturereliance.org. Go to the blog and click on the Hurricane Preparedness blog, because basically that's what I'm going to use as the talking points for our discussion here tonight, and doing my best to answer your questions. That way, once we leave the video here tonight, obviously it's going to be here available for you on our Facebook page, but you can also reference the blog because I have a lot of links there that are going to be incredibly helpful to you as well. So give me a shout out if anybody's out there. Tell me what's going on, and if you have any questions, and we'll get to them as soon as we possibly can. But the first thing I want to make sure that we discuss is if you go to that blog, naturereliance.org again, then the first thing listed there is the National Weather Service website. It's linkable. Just hit the link where it says here, and that way you can go directly there because they have an incredible vast amount of information on how to handle yourself in a hurricane. And I guess that's one thing we want to make sure that we cover tonight is the fact that I'm not a big fan of being paranoid of things, but I am a big fan of being prepared. And we tend to, in the world of survival, if you will, sometimes look at preppers as being crazy people and stuff of that nature until something like this happens. And then we realize that those people are pretty smart, because preparedness is just making sure that you have everything you need in case disaster happens. Whether that disaster is man-made disaster, a natural disaster, or whatever might happen, we want you to be prepared as possible. So again, go to the naturereliance.org website, look at that blog, because we're going to talk about a lot of things from there. And then you'll have those links to go along with you. So here's the thing that I want to go over tonight, because there's so much information that's out there about hurricanes and how to handle yourself and all that stuff. And it's good information. That website, again, is a good one. But our perspective at Nature Reliance School is how can we share information that you can utilize it for basically any type of disaster situation, whether it is, again, a man-made disaster, a natural disaster, or something of that nature. Now, a lot of you that follow us on Facebook now follow us because of my book, Extreme Wilderness Survival, and that has a wilderness focus, obviously. But the thing that came out in that book that a lot of people appreciated, and one of the things I want to share with you tonight, is this idea of how do we set ourselves up for success no matter what's going on around us. Our approach, and it's been our approach at Nature Reliance School since 2006, is to have a mindset, skills, tactics, and gear approach to everything. Survival, safety, preparedness, whatever it might be. And so that's what I'm going to start off with tonight, is this idea of preparedness from the perspective of mindset, skills, tactics, and gear. So the first things first is, and I'm trying to get everything pulled up so if somebody throws me a question, I can see it. The first thing is that if you can get out, you need to get out. Okay? So this is one of the things that I teach a lot when I teach self-defense, and that is, it doesn't matter what your possessions are, there's somebody that cares about you more than those possessions, even if it's not yourself. I would prefer that you care more about yourself than you do your possessions. But somebody loves and cares for you enough that it would be better for you to leave and get to safety than it would be for you to stay there, because those possessions are not as important as your life. So if you have the time to get out, you need to get out. That's vital. And I don't think we would do this topic any possible good without making sure that we want to accentuate that for you. You need to get out whenever possible. Now, watching the news, it looks like that Irma is going to hit Florida somewhere around 8 o'clock on Saturday, so there's still time. And for people to get out, particularly that are north, a lot of people in southern Florida are already jammed up and having issues with gas and water and any number of things, which we're going to discuss. But one of the things that would be good for you is to recognize your need to go ahead and leave that situation and definitely not be going that direction. That's our mindset. Our mindset is we want to get to safety. So from a mindset perspective, one of the things that we try to impress upon people as far as safety and survival is concerned is this idea of what I refer to as the rule of threes. Now, the rule of threes is something that's in my book. It's something that we're going to discuss here. It's not something that I copyrighted. It's not something I came up with. And the United States military came up with this mindset. And it's a beautiful thing because it simplifies things so that we can remember what we're supposed to do under stress. And so a lot of people have heard this, but if you haven't, this is how it works. The rule of threes is a very general, it's not absolute, it's a very general understanding of what your needs are in any given situation. You can't live more than 3 minutes without blood flow and oxygen flow. You can't live more than 3 hours without maintaining your core body temperature. You can't live more than 3 days without water. You can't live more than 3 weeks without food. And you can't live more than 3 months without human assistance. I add that last one in. So that gives us a real direct understanding of what our needs are. So when everybody else is rushing to the grocery store and trying to pack up with food and all that sort of thing, that's really one of the last things you need to be concerned about in a hurricane, because this hurricane is going to come through and it's not going to be here very long. It's going to sweep through and it's going to be through Miami in short order. So number one, get out. It's all about your personal safety. You need to get out. So as far as personal safety is concerned, that is going to be our primary concern, because if you're not, in typical survival classes, is how I say it, if your body is leaking, what I mean by that is you're leaking blood or you're leaking oxygen, you're not going to survive more than 3 minutes. So we've got to do something to make sure that we are safe. Okay, so here's some ideas for you, and I've got a lot of stuff that I'm going to show you that are good for us now, because hey, we've got to have some ideas now on what we can do, and then there's some things that as we continue to live our lives, there's some things and resources that you can pick up and make yourself much more intelligent before the next event that might happen. Okay, so the first thing is personal safety. Personal safety, a big thing that I'm a fan of, is something such as a road atlas. That's an old one, but I really like these gazetteers. And you can get these for virtually any state, wherever you're located, and get one for your vehicle and leave it there. And here's why. Because your GPS on your phone or your TomTom or anything like that is going to be cause for problems. Number one, it runs on batteries, and so eventually it's going to die if it doesn't get charged. And number two, when cell towers are going down or having problems or being overloaded, you might not be able to get enough signal to be able to utilize it properly. So that's a huge problem. So make sure, again, I just want to remind you as I get started on this, do us a big favor and share this with everybody that you think might be interested in it. And if you have questions, then throw them in the comments below and I'll get to them. I'm going to take 2 distinct times to answer questions, but I also got some help from Show Faith Productions in the background. They're going to let me know if I need to address anything quick. So with that said, these gazetteers are vital to having some way that you can read a map so that you, when you leave, it's more than likely, if it's the same thoroughfare that most people are going to travel on, what you're going to run into is heavy traffic, right? And so you're going to have the need. In the future, you should plan for this, but you're going to need to have a contingency plan on how you're going to evacuate. So something such as a map, whether it's a road atlas or a topography map, such as the gazetteers, and even a compass, something that's going to give you some direction so you know you're looking at your map properly. And the skills to utilize it properly before you need it are vital. These are vital little aspects of something that I recommend that you simply keep in your vehicle at all times. Because again, TomTom, GPS, all that's going to fail, and you're not going to have the ability to find your way out if that's the only way that you're used to actually navigating in a vehicle. So from that perspective, if you have time for planning, you should go ahead and discuss with your family your evacuation procedures. Usually your FEMA and your state governments are going to give you some helping that, whether it's a National Guard or law enforcement or whoever, going to start directing traffic a certain way so it doesn't get as clogged. So in that manner, you're going to get some assistance in that area. But it is always good, from my perspective, for you to have a plan and a contingency after that in case you run into trouble. Now, the next thing I want to cover as far as personal safety is concerned is this idea of self-defense. Self-defense and situational awareness. You should have what I call that Navy SEAL stare, that Special Forces stare, in that when you're out and about, you need to have your radar on so that you're aware of what's going on around you at all times. Here's what happens. Evil is in the world. And so even in a situation such as this, there are going to be people that are going to try to take advantage of others just simply because it is what it is. It's an opportunity for people to steal. It's an opportunity for people to hurt other people. People are stressed. They don't know how they're going to be able to take care of themselves because they haven't done any preparing. And in that regard, they're going to be in huge trouble. And so they take that out on other people. They try to steal resources and stuff of that nature. So with that said, personal self-defense is a key. So I'm not saying that you should physically go on the offensive after someone, but you should definitely have defensive skills. So that could include just simple hand-to-hand skills, just the ability to utilize the defensive mechanisms that you can utilize on anybody. Here's how I like to share this when I teach self-defense. You have 5 weapons on you at all times: your hands, your elbows, your knees, your feet, and your head. And every human has 5 vulnerable areas on their body, and that's their face, their throat, their groin, their knees, and their feet. So again, anytime that you can take an elbow, a hand, and strike it on one of those vulnerable areas of the human body, you're at least going to start to develop distance between you and an aggressor. So again, don't use a lot. You're not going to utilize that as an offensive measure, but as a defensive measure. It's very beneficial if you have that as your, in your back pocket so you can take care of yourself. Obviously, if you're trained well and you know how to use firearms, you can utilize that to defend yourself as well. Although what we saw in Houston, in Texas, and what I think we can actually see here is, even though there's a lot of evil, there's a lot of really good people that are all about helping others. And so that's one of the things that's come out of what happened in Texas. What we see could very easily come out of what's going to happen in Florida, is that people are much in the same boat, obviously. There's a lot of stress, and people recognize that, and there's been a lot of other people helping other people that they don't even know, strangers. And so in one sense, it's showing the best of what America is all about. At the same time, you've got these bad apples. They're not hugely problematic, but they're problematic enough that I think you should have some basic self-defense skills. Now, as far as getting help to you, if you can't evacuate and you stay back, follow all the protocol on the website that I recommended on how to take care of your house. Obviously, don't be in front of windows and board them up, and get to areas where you're not going to get hung up with a lot of water. Here's a statistic that came up today while I was reading, is that a cubic foot of water is literally a ton. That's 2,000 pounds. So any amount of water that's going to rush into you, if you're getting hit by a cubic foot of water, you're getting hit by 2,000 pounds of water. And I'm just telling you, there's nothing you can do against that. Okay, there's not much you're going to be able to do that. You're not going to stand against it. Your house is not going to stand against it if there's vast amounts of tons of water just pounding on it. So obviously you need to get out whenever you can. But at the same time, if you have to stay there and somebody's going to rescue you, one of the other things that I like to refer to as far as personal safety is concerned, is the idea of signaling. So I have a lot of ideas on signaling. First off, I'm a big fan of having brightly colored clothes, brightly colored whatever it might be that you could possibly use. So one of the things we know about the human eye is that it is actually, the human eye looks at the color spectrum. Remember Roy G. Biv from school? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. The human eye actually picks up on colors in the yellow-green spectrum more so than any other color. And so if you have anything that is close to that orange, yellow, particularly yellow, this is why all construction is going to wearing fluorescent yellow vests and stuff of that nature, it's going to be really beneficial. So something as simple as a bandana that is of that color, whether it's orange or yellow or something of that nature, or you can have some other signaling mechanism. This is a little bit high tech, but this is made by Comet. This is a signal flare, and basically what you do with this guy is you unscrew the bottom, pull the little ball that's going to pop out. It's going to shoot a parachute up that's going to have a flare on it that you can see. You can see behind me too, there's a little orange canister. That is made by the same company, and basically it's a maritime signaling device. So you pop that one, it's going to put off a vast amount of orange powder residue, like a smoke. So it's going to be real easy for a life raft to be able to be seen from aircraft. So that's some basic ideas as far as signaling is concerned. If you have nothing, here's something to keep in mind. And as I tell you this, remember, if you don't care, share this with people that are interested in the topic. That way we get as much information out as many people, and you never know, you might be able to help somebody with this information if they get to see it before anything occurs. So with that said, here's some things as far as signaling that you get from tracking. We teach a lot of tracking, and one of the things that we tell people is baseline versus disturbance. How does the natural environment appear? That's baseline. Anything that changes that is disturbance. That's what you want to look like when you want people to find you. So let's say you're in a house and somebody's coming to rescue you or something of that nature. You don't have an orange bandana. You don't have this. It's too late. You don't have any of these supplies. You have a brown house. Then don't put up a signal that is brown. Put up a white sheet. If you have a white house, then you put up a dark sheet, something that's going to contrast against the color. And the clothing that you wear, if you have an option, is going to be something that should contrast with what's around it. Because in that regard, it's going to be much easier for you to be seen, and that way people that are search and rescue can have a better opportunity to get to you. So what I want to do right now before I go into the next thing is take a quick look on, see if there's any questions that I can answer. Hey, Kim Farmer's saying hey. Alfred is there. Hey, thanks, Alfred. White cloth if you need rescue. Hey, that's what I was just talking about, Tim. That's a good one. Thanks for bringing that up, Tim. Yeah, Sam, thanks for fixing me on that. Quick math fix. 1 cubic foot is 62 pounds. Sorry about that. I knew that. Thanks, though, Sam, for bringing that up. 1 cubic yard is a ton. Appreciate you, brother. So, yeah, thanks. If you have any questions, then throw them up there, and then I'll get to them. So we really appreciate everybody that's watching. So moving on, one of the things we want to make sure that after we take care of that 3 minutes, that's our personal safety, that's some signaling so that we can be seen. Here's another quick idea for you, is you can have a flashlight. Anytime that you use 3 of anything, that's a distress signal. So you can have a flashlight that you can blink 3 times and give you a distress signal. The beautiful thing about this particular light that I have here is that this is made by Streamlight. It also has infrared. So that's going to be more easily seen by those that have IR indicators and the ability to see that. So that's real easy to see by those that are looking for you at night. As personal safety, let's talk about a couple things. Ham radios. I know it's too late for you to get your ham license, but in the future you need to. This is a Yaesu. These are pretty expensive radios, but these are Baofangs, and these are fairly inexpensive. And they both work exceptionally well. Get your ham license, know how to use communications, because one of the things that's going to happen is that communications are going to go down. And basically everybody knows, if you don't, you should. We are all incredibly dependent upon cell phones and everything that goes along with them for our communication. And in that regard, what's happening is that we are so dependent, we just lose it when we don't have the ability to communicate with other people. So that's why you need to have that plan right now on what you and your family are going to do to get together, and then have ham radios as a means of communicating with one another. Another thing that came up on social media in the last couple of days, and my good friend Jim Cobb. Jim is a really good friend of mine. This is one of his books. I think I've got 2 of his books here. 2 great books by Jim Cobb. Jim Cobb, good gravy. Jim Cobb does prepping posts several times a day. So check Jim out. He's a fantastic resource for so much free information. So you need to check him out. He's a really good friend of mine. He's been really supportive of everything I do. But he mentioned this, and I saw this too, is that Zello is an app that you can get for your iPhone or your Android or whatever it might be. And a lot of people were saying, hey, it still works when the cell towers are down. And that's totally untrue. Even though you have an app that works like a walkie-talkie, it's still heavily dependent upon the fact that you're going to have cell tower coverage. And so that app is not going to work. The only thing that's going to work is possibly ham radios. The beautiful thing about ham radio operators, and I'm one of them, is that they're kind of nerdy and geeky, right? And they typically have a incredible amount of support in battery backups and everything for the ham radio towers and whatnot. And when everything else is down, ham radios are going to be up. A lot of you may remember in Pigeon Forge last year, was it last year or year before, there was a huge fire and cell coverage was down, communications were down. Ham radio operators are up and talking and getting a lot of people saved in that regard. So find yourself the ability to get a ham radio either now or in the future, get it in your hands, and then make sure that you know how to utilize it so you can use it for your safety. Now, moving on. So, hey, there's Annie Copeland. What's up, Annie? So glad you joined us, Annie. Marcella says a lit glow stick on a 3-foot paracord and spin around and circle to signal in the dark. That's a fantastic idea. Tony, who's a good friend. Hey, Tony is the guy that got me this right here and got that back there. Tony Banks is a great guy. He's been real supportive of everything we do too. Tony's talking about his choice for Baofeng. So check that out on the Facebook page. Thanks, guys, for watching and throwing in your comments and suggestions. Really, really helpful. You know, if you follow Nature Reliance School much at all, then one of the things you'll know is that we're all about, come on, join in, let's learn together. So everybody likes our page. So if you don't like our page, that'll be beneficial to you. And so when you like that page, you'll see that I'm putting videos up every day, not live videos, but there's a lot of information that we put on there. And we tend to try to promote the idea of a community of people rather than I'm the end all, beat all that knows all, because I don't know it all. So if you're one of those people, then jump in here and throw in your comments or suggestions and make sure that we work together as a community. I think it's the most beautiful thing about America. Although all this divisiveness is going on, this kind of stuff brings out the best of who we are. So let's do what we can to help each other. So moving on through the rule of threes, one of the things I want to focus on next is this idea of your core body temperature. So hypothermia, you would think, hey, it's a snow, I don't have to worry about unless it's a snow event, and nothing could be further from the truth. You know, heat is retained in the body or is maintained at the body due to several different reasons, whether it's convection, conduction, or radiation. Convection, what happens to you is that when you're wet and your body heat goes into the moisture that's on your body, it's conducted out of your body. Wind traveling across those water droplets will cool you off. So it could be easy that people would have serious hypothermic issues simply because of they've got rained on and they can't get dry. So some simple solutions for you in that regard is to have clothing that wicks moisture away from your body. This is where you don't have to spend a lot of money either. You don't have to go out and buy the high-tech super Gucci stuff. You can just get polyester clothing, simple wool clothing that's inexpensive, and that's going to continue to maintain your core body temp even when it is wet. That's going to be vital to you. So some of the things that I have that are beneficial that will help me with core body temp, I think you can see behind me there is an orange bivy sack. That is made by SOL, and again, I have a link for that in the blog. But here's the military bivy sack that comes with a military sleep system. And here's the reason why I'm a big fan of those. Those roll up, and they're only about that big, about this long. You can throw them in a pack, and it is Gore-Tex, and so it protects against rain. It's going to keep the wind off of you, and if you have any sort of insulating layer inside there, whether it's a fleece or a wool or whatever it might be, you're going to be able to help maintain your core body temp. And so, 4 of those in your trunk of your car because you and your 4-person family are evacuating, and then you get wet, you can get inside that, and that's going to help you keep at least the wind off of you so that you're not going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. So as far as other gear, then I'm a big fan of that bivy sack, because this bivy sack I think we sell on our website for like $60 or something. It's incredibly inexpensive. And these bivy sacks that are made by SOL, you can find them on Amazon for next to nothing, $20 or something. So again, if you don't have that, here's some options for you. Garbage bags. Garbage bags make great impromptu, real quick, super cheap bivy bags. Particularly large 55-gallon drum bags or something of that nature, going to be incredibly beneficial for you to have to keep the rain off of you. You don't have a rain jacket? You do if you have a garbage bag. Get it over you to keep as much rain off of as you can, and that way that you're going to help yourself so that you don't continue to get worse. And as I'm looking at my notes, making sure I'm not missing anything, one of the things that I did miss is a first aid kit. That's also for personal safety. I have a first aid kit here in my pack that goes everywhere with me. And so this is one of those times where having a go bag or a get home bag, whatever you want to call it, is very beneficial. It's not kooky. It's just something that, hey, I've got to run, I got to go. I've got everything I need in this particular pack so I can get it and literally go. So a first aid kit is going to be invaluable to you. So some of the things that I recommend putting in a first aid kit is, number one, good training. So yeah, the American Heart Association, Red Cross, they offer good basic first aid, but I'm a big fan of extending that out and getting more in-depth training from a trauma specialist, particularly on tourniquets and Israeli bandages and MPAs and all the things that go along with that. So I'm a huge fan of doing that as well. So get that training, get that gear, put that in your first aid kit, that way you have it. Now, back to core body temp. Again, I think we talked about clothing. We've talked about some bivy sacks. We talked about anything that you can do to get out of the wind. And I just want to remind you again, as far as basic hurricane preparedness, go to that website at the top. It's put out by the National Weather Service. It has video after video and blog after blog on information that details what you can do specifically to your house. Moving on from core body temp, one of the things that we like to talk about is water, because let's say that you're out, and I just saw a news segment a second ago where people were buying water. Obviously, all the water's gone. People can't buy it. Here's some things in your house that you can go to. The back of the toilet has clean water in it. Your hot water heater has plenty of water in it. So you can drain, if you look at the bottom of your hot water heater, it's going to have a valve, because believe it or not, you should drain that on a regular basis, but very few people do. So utilize that valve at the bottom. It's going to look just like a water faucet on the outside of your house to drain, get water out of it, because it's going to have several gallons of water in it as well. That's clean water that you can utilize as well. And after that, when everything is said and done, there's a good chance that there's going to be sewage mixed in with a regular water source. Obviously, the best choice for you to do, maybe it's not obvious, is to boil water. So you want to make sure that you filter it. That's why I'm another big fan of something like a bandana, because a bandana is going to help me filter out funky chunkies. That's what I call it. That's the technical term. Filter out the funky chunkies. And at the same time, I can boil it, because bacteria, and specifically bacteria only, doesn't exist in the environment of 220 degrees when water boils. So that's a fantastic way to quickly get some water. Obviously, let it cool. Every person's just probably going to be, if you need a number to help you, is probably going to be in the range of a gallon a day. Not that they're going to be drinking a gallon of water a day, but they're going to be drinking at least a half gallon to stay hydrated, and at the same time using another half gallon for hygiene, whether it's to clean themselves or clean their cook area, food area, or something of that nature. These are all things that you need to keep in mind as far as water is concerned. Another good choice is to get some sort of straw. This is a new one. I did some training down in Virginia recently, and there was a gentleman that is really high speed, I'll say that. He's really good at what he does. He trains a lot of people throughout the country, throughout the world on some high-speed guys, survival training. He recommended this one for us. It's made by Rapid Pure. I don't think I have this linked on the blog, but you can look these up. Rapid Pure is a fantastic water filter. This is the only filter I know that also filters out viral contaminants. So this is a fantastic choice. If you have choices, I'm a big fan of Sawyer, because it's so small and compact and affordable. And I hope that gives you an idea. Hey, I don't have this stuff right now, but I need a strategy. Well, the strategy is to boil if you don't have anything. If you have some kit supplies, then these are the kind of things that you can have in your kit that you can carry with you in your getaway bag, go bag, and stuff of that nature. So moving on, as far as 3 weeks, that might be farther out, but hey, it might be such that large sections of the country are destroyed and you're not going to get, obviously most of the food's gone already. There may not have the opportunity to get trucks back in to fill the groceries back up. So one of the things that we can look is at rations. So these are made by UST, and they call them emergency food ration bars, but they're basically C rations. C like SEA, C. These are the type of food that is stored in a life raft on much of the larger boats. So if you have to get in a life raft, you have these rations in there. And quite frankly, I've existed on these for, one time I ate these, nothing but these for a week, and they're not really that bad as far as taste. And I can tell you one thing is for certain, though, and that is that the best seasoning in the world, are you listening to me? The best seasoning in the world is hunger. So if you're hungry, these are going to taste great. And so the beauty of this is that there's 2,400 calories right here in this small package. So you can get something like this that is real easy to compact. Now, let's say you don't have that already. Just think about high carb content food sources. I'm not a big fan of eating a lot of this now on a daily basis, but some things that you can keep in mind is something like ramen noodles or something of that nature, because there's a lot of carbs there, gives you the energy. You're going to go up and down as far as energy. You're not going to have a sustained energy. But the reason I suggest that is because you can throw them in a pack and leave them if you have to. You don't have to continually resupply and do all that stuff. So that's going to be incredibly beneficial to you. So let me go back to see if there's any questions we need to address. Bill says, you think those taste like orange flavored oatmeal? I think they taste like pecan sandies, or at least the ones that I ate did. All right, Janie Scott said absolutely. I don't know. Kim Farmer's looking for bacon-flavored sea rations. I don't think that happens, Kim. So, yeah, that's pretty good, bacon-flavored. All right, so moving on then. The last part of the law of threes is this: human assistance. So let's review real quick. You must have blood flow and oxygen flow within 3 minutes. You've got to maintain your core body temperature in 3 hours. You've got to have clean water in 3 days. You've got to have food within 3 weeks. And I always add in, you've got to have human assistance within 3 months. So if you look at Aboriginal Native American cultures, they all existed because they worked with one another, and people had certain tasks that they did, and they helped one another. This is where I think, again, and I've said this several times, we need to make sure that we have that mindset that we need to be looking out for each other. This country was founded on us working together, and that's vital, that we have the ability to help each other whenever we can. So that's some ideas on the law of threes on what you need. Somebody sent this to me earlier, and I went ahead and put it in the blog so it's there, so check it out. Asked me, what do you think are the most overlooked items in an event like this, whether it's a huge snowstorm or a hurricane or earthquake or whatever it might be? Here's a listing for you. Communications. We've already discussed ham radios. I'm a big fan of ham radios. Just be aware that in most disasters, cell towers are going to go down. You know, with the water that's going to be traveling through these areas, what they found in Houston is that cell towers were just basically just crippled, just knocked straight over. And so they just didn't last because they can't withstand the pressure. So communications are big. Make sure you have a plan on how you're going to communicate with those that you care about. Another one is you need to have a plan put together now. If you haven't put a plan together on how you're going to exit and what you do if you get split up or something happens, you go to a shelter and you get split up, you need to start having plans for that now. That way, if you travel, you get out of the state or up the north and you're out of the area of the danger zone and you're in a shelter for some reason and heck, you can't find your family, that's going to be very stressful. So have a plan right now on how you're going to communicate effectively with one another, and that way everybody can get together and ease everybody's mind. Here's another big one, is valuable information. Take pictures of bank statements, take pictures of all your valuables so that you have them with your, excuse me, you have them with you. Another big thing is to have a thumb drive and have all your very important documents scanned and already on that thumb drive. So if you have to evacuate, you put that thumb drive in your pack and then you're out of here. That way you have that. So those might be birth certificates, that might be bank statements, any number of things. That way you can access what it is that's yours after you get out, even if, hey, you've lost your wallet or something. You can communicate effectively with the banks once everything starts coming back up and you're not long-term without any sort of financial means. Obviously, fuel is the next one I had on my list. Fuel, I just watched the news segment. They're already out of gas down in southern Florida. So you need to have, if you're not in that area, you need to get filled up. And if you have some extra cans, you need to get those filled up so you have them with you. I would travel with them as well. Prescription meds. This is the next one on the list. A lot of people seem to forget their prescription meds. They might even have a go bag. They might have a bag that they can grab and go, literally. And because prescriptions are the way they are, you can't just go out and have just vast amounts of them that you keep in your bag. So make sure that you take your prescription medicines with you. I'm a big fan of developing a checklist, having it with your stuff so that if you have to evacuate, you make sure that if you have time, obviously, you go through that list. The next one on my list was financial account information. I've already discussed that. And the last one I have on my list is things that are often overlooked is pets. Here's something that is just destroys a lot of people's morale. Most shelters will not accept a pet. So make plans now to do something. If you're the type of person, and I am, I have a dog that I care for deeply. I want to take that dog with me. I want to do what I can to exit so the dog can stay with me. I have the means to take care of the dog as far as shelter, water, and food as well. And that way I can take care of my pet along the way. Because one of the most heartbreaking things is you and your family or those you care about, your spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever it is, you travel, you get to this shelter, you got your pet with you, and the shelter is like, no, you got to get that out of here. Now, I did some training with some organizations here in Kentucky, and one of those organizations even has a big, huge pet motel that travels with them during disaster. But that's not something that's going to happen all the time. So make sure you're doing what you can to take care of your pets. So another thing that I have on this blog, again, naturereliance.org is our website. Just go to the blog, and you'll see the top blog right now is Hurricane Preparedness. I did a video several years ago about hurricane preparedness. There's some information there. And just as we're closing up, here's a few things to keep in mind. Again, look at that website from the National Weather Service. It's fantastic. Once this is not live anymore, hey, it's still going to be on the Facebook page, so you can easily share it. If you have comments, throw them in there. I'll be monitoring it. I monitor the Facebook page every day, and that way we can get all your questions answered. If I've missed you here tonight, I'm sorry. You've put a comment or a question in there, and I didn't get to you, then I forgot to, or I didn't get to you, then I'll answer them there. Here's a few other things before I leave as I'm looking around to see if I missed anything. Obviously, my book, it's got a lot of information on it. Jim Cobb is a big friend of mine. This is Prepper's Long-Term Survival Guide, Armed Defense. He's got fantastic books. He's got one that I couldn't find. I don't know where it is, Jim, if you're watching by chance, but he's got one on emergency communications, on ham radios and everything. Charlie Hogwood has been doing a lot of this work before. He's got a very fantastic series of books on preparedness. And I couldn't find my book by John McCann. John McCann's been doing this stuff for decades. And so he's like a Yoda of preparedness information and supplies, so check him out. And here's a fantastic book that does not get broadcast enough, I don't think. It's one of the best books, I think. It's Disaster Preparedness Handbook. This gentleman did a fantastic job for preparedness, so keep in mind all that. Those are some resources for you. Obviously, come back to naturereliance.org, our Facebook page, and YouTube and all that good stuff. And keep in mind, this is our first live event, so we're working out the kinks, and we'll get better. I'm sure we will, and I appreciate everybody that came and watched. Keep in mind that you can join us on September the 14th. That's going to be next Thursday as well at the same time at 8:30. What we're going to be doing, this is my Heal People gear set up. It's got all my survival supplies. We had already scheduled a video to do that next week, and we had the bright idea to go ahead and knock this out tonight because there's so much information to share. So we went ahead and knocked this one out, which we're very glad that we got this first live event. Hey, give me some helpful feedback. Always on Nature Reliance School, what we're interested in is the come on, join in, let's learn together. So help me help you. So give me some feedback. I'll make sure that these get better and better. And as always, just share this stuff that you can help. If you see anything that you think is helpful, then share it in the comments below. That way that people that come here will see those comments, and we'll all do everything we can. As I always say, come on, join in, let's learn together.